Brad McElhenney. I'm co-editor of the Gazette Mail. Thank you for coming today. Appreciate it.
I'm Kelly Merritt. I'm opinion page editor of the Daily Mail opinion page.
Phil Cavler, State House reporter.
I'm Rob Byers, co-editor.
I'm Dawn Miller, the Gazette opinion page.
Mr.
I'm
Lowe.
Shirley Love, Democrat candidate for House of Delegates in the 32nd Delegate District.
Briefly why you're running.
So,
Would you briefly explain
well, it
briefly why you're
seems
running?
it's all about jobs and the economy, and I'm like everyone else, I'm dedicated to bringing jobs to my district and to the state of West Virginia. Possibly, if possible, to bring back coal. You know, coal has been the backbone of our economy in West Virginia for the past 100 years. Although they say coal is gone, I don't think so. I think there's a way that you can have clean coal. You can give tax breaks to some of these power plants that can put on scrubbers or add to what they already have. They can put out into the atmosphere clean air that will not pollute our atmosphere. The cost, I think, the benefits would far outweigh the cost that it would cost in jobs and a return on our tax dollars in West Virginia.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and discuss more of that later. We'll go on with introductions.
My name is Randy Halsey. It's Halsey. I am a teacher at Midland Trail High School in Fayette County, and I am for the children. I think our greatest resource in our state is our children, and I think we need to focus on education. We need to focus on the good teachers that we have. We have a wonderful teaching force, not only in Fayette County, but I think we have a wonderful teaching force in the state of West Virginia. And I think we need to take care of those. So I think we need to fund PEIA. I think we need to look at finance packages, things like that. Thank you.
I'm Joel Davis. I'm a retired school teacher also from Fayette County, and I was also a golf coach and a tennis coach and a public address guy there locally for a while. Anyway, I'm running because I've been interested in politics and particularly teachers over the years. I was always a grassroots teacher, never made it past that. I always got demoted rather than promoted. And so as a retiree, you know, I had options, and the way the current legislators were doing things bothered me. You know, with their agendas so radical, just for right to work and prevailing wage, and come high water, whatever, they would go past it. So I got concerned. I've been in politics. I haven't been in politics, but that roused me. Thank you.
I'm Greg Christ. I'm also a school teacher, been in the Fayette County school system for 30 years as a teacher and coach. Coached basketball and about every other sport you can think of, but I decided to run for this. I'm also a part-time radio broadcaster for a contemporary Christian station. I do local high school basketball and football games during the season. But I decided to run for this after watching what was going on in the legislature in Charleston every day with the issues that we have on PEIA, which concerns me greatly, obviously, and also some of the other issues, and to see what our legislators were focusing their efforts on, raw milk and some of those sorts of things. And I just thought, you know, there's so many issues that we face that need to be addressed. And I just felt like, even though I'm not an experienced politician, I am an experienced person. I've been in this world quite a long time, and I think I could really work to find some solutions for some of these problems that we have, instead of just ignoring them and hoping that they go away.
I'm Dr. Margaret Staggers. I'm an ER physician, board certified in family and emergency medicine, and I'm a paramedic. I was elected 4 times to the House of Delegates. Lost by 80 votes the last time. Don't need any money. Not really, can't be bought because I have so many different views, and I'm willing to negotiate and be open and work with whoever I need to get things passed. I've got bills passed through roads and transportation that everyone swore I couldn't. Cell phone bill, texting bill, the seatbelt bill, the governor's bill on, so a lot of those things, just by negotiating and treating everyone like a human being and saying, well, let's just work this out and see what's best for people. That's what I'd like to do again.
Thank you. Well, thank y'all very much, and again, thank y'all for being here. So I'll just start off the questioning with, education has been brought up quite a bit. We got retired teachers and coaches, and Fayette County has been obviously a hot spot for education issues. What do you think the role of the state versus the county versus local schools might be, or is state understand is still in control of the Fayette County Board of Education? And what's the role of the state in Fayette County's education system? We'll start with you, Mrs. Staggers, or go all the way. Dr. Siders, go all the way.
Okay, I love Einstein's quote, that education starts the moment you're born and ends the day you die. And I just wonder why we can't start doing some real new vision in terms of education, and maybe melding some of the learning all the way, not starting just at the first grade, or you have to get through the 12th grade, but continuing at each community that every one of us shall continue to learn until it's time to check out wherever we're going next. I think that the teachers in this state should be paid whatever the highest county is being paid, and that's Putnam, by the way. I think they're being paid $52,000, $55,000 because they have the tax base to do that. And then if the other counties can't pay that, then I think we need to consolidate their school oversight. In other words, put several counties together, superintendent for several counties, so that we can pay the people who are actually teaching people, and the people who are observing them and making sure they're doing a good job. Maybe we could consolidate those functions.
One of my issues with the current legislative bodies and past legislative bodies is that they talk about reform. They're going to do education reform. The big problem I have with all that is that they rarely, if ever, consult with us, the people that are teaching, principals, the bus drivers, the cooks, the custodians. And I really feel like those are the people that know what the problems are. And, they rarely consult with the teachers. And I think that goes not just with education, but with any entity, that you've got to talk to people that know the issues and know some solutions to the problems. And, I think, unfortunately, the State Department, in our case, has become more of an antagonist as opposed to help and aid. And I think that should be their role. I think they should be there to assist and help, with resources, supplies, et cetera, et cetera. I do agree with Dr. Staggers about too much fat at the top. I think the governor had an audit a few years ago. The audit showed we were clearly top heavy at not only the state level, but also on the county level, that we had too many top heavy salaries. That's not been addressed, and I think there are so many positions. We have 55 county superintendents, we have 55 assistant superintendents. I know in Fayette County we have 11 curriculum specialists, and I really think that there's some areas where we could trim that would help. And I'm not saying we can cut your way to prosperity, I don't believe that, but I do think that we could be a lot more savvy in the way we spend our money, and I think that would go a long way into help. And I also get amused when I hear a lot of our politicians say, we just can't keep good teachers, yet retain good teachers. I'm not sure if they don't understand why, if they're not paying attention. Okay, we can tell you why you can't get a key. I also take offense to that. I've been teaching 30 years, so I think they kept one. They always say that, we can't get the key to them.
Just one, not two.
So anyway, but I think we do have really, really good teachers. I just think when you look at poverty levels and all the other things that we deal with on a daily basis, you can't go by a test score to determine the fact that we're the worst in the country and Fayette County is the worst in the state. Those are test scores created by no child left behind that, and they really don't do that. I think we're a miracle that we should look at
I think the question was, how can the state help Fayette County? So I understand it. And of course, it's a dynamic we can't seem to solve, because the school building authority started what they did probably with the direct decision to consolidate, to make it as thorough and efficient education as possible. That was a solution. and he rode along with us until like 2003, and he kind of like dropped it, saying that you got an audit system, you got a performance system, so, you know, that's good enough. So, but going to Fayette County, we're a different dynamic, okay? And, you know, but based on our geography and everything like that, and it's hard to find a common solution in Meadow Ridge and Midland Trail and Oak Hill and Mount Hope, and so that's a big problem. Well, okay, the State Department, you know, they come in, we're looking for some money, they tried a few times, we didn't get any agreement, right? They offer us, so the problem is, I think, you know, we felt, I mean, for me, as I looked at it, in the early going, the state SBA helped counties financially with resources. They changed their policy somehow and recoded it or something, to now where if you help yourself a little bit, then we'll come back in, okay? But it's not working for us. I don't know the solution, because even now we got a lawsuit out there, I think, that they filed, and it's going to have to probably come down based on the rec decision, is it not? When you go back to it, and they evaluate this, I don't know. But anyway, the answer is, they don't know, we don't know yet. You know, but I think people are coming a little bit closer to wanting to.
I think the state, since the state has been in our county since 2010, has created a more divisive atmosphere in our county than we already have. Our communities now are pitted against each other. Who's going to lose their school? Who's going to sacrifice whatever? I think the best thing that can happen for Fayette County is the State Department lead. I have attended numerous county meetings across all of Fayette County, and I really truly believe that the citizens of Fayette County can come together to reach a consensus on what we need to do. And that includes, you know, Meadow Ridge has always led the fight, anti-consolidation, whatever. I'm from Meadow Ridge. I understand. I know why the fight is so hard. They have, if you look at Meadow Ridge, that's almost the prize school, because they have community involvement, they have community support. It's small, but they do good things. But I'm also going to say this to follow that up. Good things happen. All we see is the negative about Collins Middle School being condemned and so forth. There are great things that happen in Fayette County schools. There are great teachers. When OEPA came back in the fall and did an audit of our school system.
OEPA?
Yes, sir.
What's that?
Office of Education Performance Audits. When they came to Fayette County and did their audit, like they periodically do, I teach at Midland Trail on the 8 criteria that we get evaluated on. We had 7 distinguished areas out of the 8 categories. The Votex Center at Oak Hill, they had 8 out of 8 distinguished areas based on that audit. There are great things that happen in Fayette County. I think we need to focus on good things. Now, I'm going to say this as well. If you look at the average income of the citizens in Fayette County, some ranges somewhere between $11,000 to $13,000. Okay, passing the bond in our county is not likely. Okay, over the last 30 years, it hasn't passed. Do we want to force a tax upon citizens that are having a hard time in today's economy and meeting their bills, feeding their kids, keeping the power on? It's going to be a hard sell for that to happen. Okay. So I think we need to really consider, you know, what do we really want to try to fill another bond out, because it's expensive to put a bond out, at least $100,000. That $100,000 could be used elsewhere on maintenance facilities or whatever we need to do. So I think if we were left alone as a group of citizens of Fayette County, I think we could come together and reach a solution on what our education future should be.
Fayette County, in my estimation, is a very unique county. It's almost like 3 counties. You have the Plateau, you have the Valley, and you have the New Haven, which is across the gorge. And it seems that everyone wants to keep their school colors. The perception is you close the school down, you close the town down. But I think if the State Board of Education had taken a different approach and worked with the civic groups, with the city administrations, I think they would have had a different approach on the bond levy. Nobody wants in Fayette County to pass the bond levy. It's been unsuccessful several times. But you have to play politics sometime, and I don't think the State Board of Education played politics with the local groups, and I'm talking about the Lions clubs, the civic organizations within Fayette County. These people they interact with everyone. They interact with the teachers, they interact with the man who pays the taxes that runs the schools. And that has never come about. It's always been $200,000 for a piece of property away from the high school, where they have in Oak Hill a piece of infrastructure that was taken by domain a few years ago, over 100 acres. They've used approximately 51 acres of it and used it well. They still have, I would say, in the range of 45 to 50 acres left. There's no reason why they have to go out and buy another piece of property when they have real estate that can be used to put in a new high school. And consolidation is the only answer. You can't have 7 high schools within a county like Fayette losing population, losing jobs due to the coal industry, and what's happened economically on the state level recently. You just cannot support 6 to 7 high schools in any county, much less Fayette. And consolidation is the only answer. Now, it's going to displease a lot of people if however they consolidate, because again, each town wants to keep their colors and they want to keep their football team and their basketball team. And this has been true in other counties. You're seeing it around the state. And this is true in Fayette County. And once the conversation goes, it sells. And this is where your opposition gets so big, there's no bottom that they want to pass. But if you interact with the local organizations, and I'm talking about Civitan, women organizations, junior women's clubs, the Lions clubs, the Rotary clubs, you get these people interested, and you get them working for you in that direction. It's happened before in Fayette County. Back in the early 70s or the late 60s, they had more or less, it was a form of consolidation. Even Meadow Bridge came out ahead in that section. You had a principal or a Board of Education superintendent in Fayette County named Matt Edwards. Mr. Edwards, in my estimation, was one of the best representatives as a superintendent that Fayette County has ever had. Back then, Fayette County, if they got $200,000 today, it was at a New York bank tomorrow growing interest and using it to do other things educationally in Fayette County. Those are the things that you're going to have to do to get Fayette Countyans interested and educate them on a bond levy as to what it means, what it's going to do, where that money is going to go, and how it's going to benefit their youngsters and their grandchildren for decades to come. You cannot keep supporting those high schools at the economic level that we're at. So I think if they put more emphasis on that, and with monies that the SBA may come, with matching monies from the Board of Education in Fayette County, a lot of good things can happen again in Fayette County, and it's not happening right now because there's just too much dissension, even on the ones running for Board of Education in Fayette County. Everybody has a different direction it seems to go in. And when you have those different directions, there's no real path to go on. You have to cut some grass somewhere and make a road to go on. And that's what I think needs to be done in Fayette County.
Well, we've been asking everybody how you solve the state budget equation. So, who wants to go first?
Let's go get it over with. Where I came from this morning, you can see the bullet holes everywhere. All of us were there. A little meeting down in Smithers in Fayette County, and you know, West Virginia Tech is going to Raleigh County, and I did happen to be in the wrong spot at the right time, the wrong time this morning, so I've got shots already, so go ahead.
Well, how would you like to solve the state's budget? What would you do to balance the state's budget? Tax increase, spending cuts, what combination?
Well, you're going to have to tax a lot. I'm not for taxes, I'm against taxes, but there's going to have to be a tax of some form, whether it's on cigarettes. And I don't smoke, I used to. And I probably would have second thoughts about voting for a cigarette tax, but at this time of the game, West Virginia is in such a financial crisis, and it's going to be even worse next year. I know and you know that they're going to have to tax something. One of the most fair tax, I think, was the food tax. Now, whether they would add 1%, 2%, 3% back on that, it's the most fair tax that you could go with. Mr. Jones up on the mountain is a millionaire, he buys a loaf of bread, he pays a tax just like I do. It's an even tax, it's one that everybody participates in. And that's one way you can get some monies to go into the budget. Another is the cigarette tax, it's a sin tax. Another would be beer, alcohol, I guess you'd call them sin taxes. So there's nothing the matter with that. And West Virginia is a vital belt. You certainly don't get that much kickback or feedback politically when you institute those type of taxes. The bottle tax, look what it did for West Virginia University in 1 cent. Why not on a bottle of beer? Or 2 cents on a fifth of whiskey? And then back to the food tax. I mean, that's my perception of ways that could be done, but I'm just one if I'm elected into elected. There's 100, but there will also be a lot of other ideas that would be possibly much better than mine, that I would go along with as a delegate to vote, that could be 10 times better than what I just suggested to you. They have a good governor and a good legislature, they have worked these ways out to do it. It seems our present legislature hasn't done. There's been a lot of time debating legislation that's made headlines, but not enough time to make West Virginia better or great again.
Okay, thank you.
I'll go next. Same question. I would agree that, I don't think that anybody wants to raise taxes, and I would agree that something has to be done though. I've heard ideas, and I would like to think that this would be a good idea possibly. If you do add those taxes, you can make them disappear after a certain period of time. Give it time to work. See if we can build things up and then reinvest and the job bills and that sort of thing to get people working and putting money back into the economy. But then have a point in time when if that's not working, you stop them and you try something else. Because I don't think you can cut your way to prosperity. I don't think you can tax your way to prosperity. But I do think we're in such dire straits right now that I think, I don't know if we would call it emergency action, but something needs to be done immediately, quickly. And again, I think if you set a limit on how long those taxes can run, that possibly you could get things jump started and then go back and pull those back as the economy starts to improve. I also think that we've got to start looking at diversifying. For years we put all of our eggs in one basket, and that's the coal basket. In this case, the coal bucket. And I'm a full supporter of that, of course, family in the coal mines and all that. But at the same time, the worldwide conditions are what's killing the coal economy. And I don't know that it's ever going to come back to the way it used to be. So I think we need to start looking at some other ways to diversify the economy and instead of depending on that so much, because it may not get back to where it was. It may come back some, probably not the way it was. And so I think we need to look at some diversification in our economy as well.
I'm going to jump in after Coach Chris. I'm going to agree with a lot of the things that Coach said. I agree definitely. I was listening this morning back to Jeff Kessler speak about diversification, some of the ideas that he has about taxing businesses that export things, and if they send things back, we can cut taxes that way. I don't think we need to go out and tax everything, because we're going to kill our citizens. We're going to overload them, and then really there's no motivation for them to say everyone is going to leave. So I think we need to balance it a little bit. I think we need to balance it with some tax hikes where we can, with the cigarette tax or the alcohol tax. I think we need to look at streamlining some government. as well. I look at education. When the strike of 1992, one of the results of the strike of 1992, the teacher strike, was the creation of the REIS, the Region of Education. Okay, so we are regionalized. We've all mentioned that. Maybe we need to go away from having county boards of education, and the geography of West Virginia dictates that as well. Look at Chapmanville. Chapmanville is a regional high school down there. It works well. Okay, maybe we need to look in that direction to regionalize and control the schools. Yes, you'll still have county level leaders and specialists and so forth, but maybe we need to trim the state budget that way by cutting some of those top-heavy administrators. I'm going to throw this out, and it may cost me or whatever, but I'm going to throw it out. It is my opinion. I think we probably need to look at throwing it at the voters for legalizing medical marijuana and taxing it. Okay, and it's a little bit personal of an issue for me. And this is absolutely not part of my campaign, but I did lose my wife in November, and I saw the struggles that she went through. She had a tumor in her neck, and I remember getting up every day, every morning when I would get up to go to work and hear her groaning and moaning in bed. I didn't want her to suffer, obviously, and I listened to that suffering for 3 years. And I think we really need to look at it. We need to put it out to the voters. I don't think the legislature needs to decide this issue. I think the voters, the citizens of West Virginia, need to decide this issue, whether to legalize medical marijuana or not legalize it. But if we do legalize it, if the citizens choose to legalize it, then I think we need to put a tax on it. That's another source of income for us, I think. And like I say, it's nowhere question my faith. I'm a very devout Christian, but I see the medical ramifications of it. Personally, like I say, I saw that, I know. And if I would have done anything, if it would have stopped my wife from being in pain and suffering and listening to her at 6 o'clock in the morning when I got to work, I would have been absolutely for that.
I'll go here. Well, the hardest thing I was talking, I don't say your name, you put it in front, Kavler, okay, I thought you even put it in phonetics for us one time, I remember. But anyway, it's hard to find some, the last couple of months, I've spent a lot of time statistically looking at things in government, I can't find a lot. But I'll tell you one thing I did, because I looked in there and I said, number of West Virginians that make over $400,000 a year. Well, they don't tell me. Well, and I looked up one statistic that said 1.8. Well, 1.8, 1.860, 1,860,000 West Virginians equals about 30,000. Okay? Right. Now, I don't know if you ever quote me. I'm not going to be a socialist here. I'm going to try to back you. I got a whole rule with you. But if you take 30,000, if that is true, and those 30,000 people, and our income tax is 6.5% at $60,000 plus $2,750, right? I think is what it is. So if you make that, that's what you pay. When you go to 400,000, that's exactly what you pay again. Okay? And I think they've reviewed that and said, this is one way to go. I'm not saying tax the rich. I'm just saying proportionately, those of us like me, under 50,000 a year, being a substitute teacher and caddy sometimes at the Greenbrier, every bit of money I get, I spend here in West Virginia. I'm not going anywhere. I can't go anywhere. Okay? All right. So, tax on, I see Mr. Love's point there. That's a problem. I'm not advocating socialism, but anyway, 30,000 people times 3,000, just more in income per person, that's $90 million. Okay? And that's a permanent fix. I mean, it's not a permanent fix, I don't mean it that way, but it's a reliable income, because in the budget, tell me, $1.2 billion of that $4.25 billion budget comes from personal income tax. Okay, and so $1 billion comes from, I think, general sales tax or merchandise, right? And that's half the budget. Okay, so I mean, when I say that, people say, "Don't tax the rich," they provide that. But the point is, all they do there is they tell us we don't give you any more taxes because we'll hurt you. That way, that hurts me, it won't hurt you. Okay, all right. Now, having said that, I'm not a socialist. That money, would plug, PEIA, some of it, and it would plug, keeping teachers in the classroom, where they're drastically needed, working with students, not behind books and data and all that. Right? It could. All right, and therefore it's a win-win. It goes to them, and that's who we want to. We want to educate them. We want to provide. You know, that's where the money would go. It wouldn't go to give me more money on my retirement or anything like that. Okay, so I know that people want to revisit that. But I'm just tired of some people saying, well, you know, we don't want more taxes. The taxes, we know, it hurts me. It hurts the poor. I spend all my money here. Okay, not saying I'm poor, but it hurts the poor. That's one. Trimming the government, yeah. That's not a real, I think, Democratic idea, nor Republican idea, but both of them do it. I think, you know, you look at that budget, and it's hard for me, and I did it the last 2 months, trying to find, scrutinize information, you know, I mean, there could be trimmed a whole lot. There's a lot of extra staff, okay? Now, if I'm doing any good and you want to hire me additionally, I'll be on your staff, okay? Okay, and I'll delete what I just now said. I'm just kidding, okay? All right, okay. You know, I'll delete what this, I should get golf tournaments.
Not me,
Okay.
stay away.
All right. Anyway, that has, you know, and again, as the governor sensibly proposed at the beginning in his speech, that was a sensible way to go. That's been rejected, and I think Fields mentioned that in the column, like that. And that was a very sensible way, and it didn't. But they took a tax pledge or a no tax pledge and all that, and so therefore that fizzled.
Dr. Stackers.
It's me. I wrote down a couple notes because I had several ideas. And let me just start with the amoral international corporate overlords that have been dictating things to us and avoid all taxes. Now, that obviously is not a West Virginia solution, but if we don't do something about that, everything we buy will be, none of those people will be paying taxes. They'll just be telling us how to vote, because you can avoid all taxes. I have a small corporation. My husband is my only employee, I'm an employer, I guess. But use that just to funnel the money in that I made as a position. Now, I can avoid payroll taxes right there, but that's a teeny tiny thing. So if we don't address some international problems, and for us to think that the problems with natural gas is something here in West Virginia, don't you think that that was an international pissing contest with the oil and the gas? Saudi Arabia is going to continue producing, everybody's going to continue and drive the cost down. The people remember the 1970s when the gases costs were so high because of OPEC. So all of those, like diamonds and everything else, controlled internationally. It's not a West Virginia problem, but I believe that natural gas will come back. And we have such a beautiful supply of it here that will help a lot with the coal. Coal's always going to be here. We've got enough for years and years and years. How about the thing that I proposed, a $1.2 billion road bond? Just let the people vote on it. You want good roads? Vote yes. You don't want them? Vote no, then don't complain. You know, that would stop the complaints about the potholes. Do you want them or do you not? That would take it back to the people. There should be efficiencies in every place in our state and with all of our workplaces too, if you stop to think of it. But in the state, in the Charleston Gazette on the vent line today, Charleston Gazette Daily Mail, excuse me, it said that the guy working for the state said he could find efficiencies right away to make things easier, save money. We don't listen to those people. I would sunset everything that we do in the state government and look at it again. Do we need this commission? Or do we need to pay these people $150 to travel here and give them these things? And I would do it for every one of them and have some sort of good review. Does this need to continue to exist? Turnpikes. If we're going to keep our turnpike, my plan for that was pay off the turnpikes early, the turnpike bonds early, because do you know China owns a good gob of that money? So we're paying people in China while we drive up and down the turnpike. But what if we paid it off early with state funds, and then every time we rode up and down the turnpike, we would be paying the money back to West Virginia. Sort of like a lottery ticket, a little bit easier, a little sugar with the medicine. And then there's two places But I talked to Phil about that we should turnpike right away, up in, the tip up in Wheeling, 81, and what's the, little, 70, yeah, just, as long as we do some sort of, maintenance work on there, do you know it's legal, that we can, charge them 25 cents to drive across that little tip? You know, if we're going to go for it like other states are, how easy would that be? And we just continue, now we're allowed to continue fixing that road for the next 50 years or something, and make them pay a toll as they come through. I think tourism, when you stop to think of it, what's the one thing that you remember that you love about West Virginia? It's going out and looking at, well, we'll probably drive back past Cathedral Falls and the Mystery Hole as we go home. And those are the things that bring people here. One thing that would help the tourism industry, and I'll go ahead and say it too, forget medical marijuana, just legalize marijuana. And if we can't do it in this state, then let's push the federal government by legalizing. We can grow it here. And remember, we tax it as we grow it and send it to the other states that are now have legal marijuana. And if, you know, that would sort of tax base there. We can grow marijuana all over West Virginia. I have heard that we can grow some really fine product in West Virginia. And I've also heard, I had my interns in my office one time, and I said, what would you call this West Virginia product? These are the 21-year-olds sitting in my office drinking a beer or something. It took them 5 minutes to come up with a name. We'll sell it to Colorado and Washington, California, Hillbilly High. So there's all sorts of ways that we are not thinking outside the box. If we want to protect all of our dear children who've never smoked marijuana from ever smoking it, send it to Colorado, Washington, D.C., and all the other places that are legal. So if I get back in, I'll work with my buddy down there, and then I won't put it on the doctors trying, you know, the same doctors that are prescribing OxyContin when you prescribe marijuana. Just go buy it if you want it, but you're going to pay taxes, and we're going to make lots of money on it.
Can we follow up, Kelly?
Right.
Mr. Love mentioned that he would consider a food tax, which I don't always hear lumped in with the sin taxes. I'd like to hear from the rest of you, yes or no, whether you think a food tax should be part of the solution to balancing the state budget.
I personally don't think so. I think that tax is, you know, just like Joe mentioned, yeah, the millionaire goes and buys the loaf of bread, just like I do. But, you know, that tax hurts me a lot more than it does him. And I think when you have that, you implement something like that, I think that puts more pressure on your middle and lower class folks. And I don't think that is a good answer.
I would say, I wouldn't consider it, but if it was designated somewhere, particularly, it might be something that the public would go for. In other words, if that 1 cent tax is designated to a area, you know, education or, you know, something marked, and it would generate X amount of money per year, and the public would, you know, could be, you know, say, let's go into education, you know, even though you're eating bread, you know, I just want to go to education, and we need public education, okay? And I might consider something like that, a good designated area.
I'll jump in after Joel. I would not support the tax on food as well. Because again, I go back to the Fayette County residents, the average income in Fayette County, $11,000 to $13,000. I mean, I know it's 6 cents on a dollar or whatever the tax would be, but still, that's a huge difference for those people that work minimum wage jobs and that struggle to put food on the table from time to time. So I would not personally support it. I would include, we've all talked about it here. I would rather see, you know, one of the big things with West Virginia is tourism. Well, let's tax those tourists that are coming in from other states. Let's have a user fee at the Greenbrier for those folks that are coming to the Greenbrier for the Greenbrier Classic, or that are coming to visit our state parks or camping or whatever. Let's visit that maybe instead.
On your questionnaire you filled
Yes.
out, you said reinstitute the food tax at 3%.
Did I? long time ago. I apologize. Politician, I've changed my view.
But my point is, you know, look, if I'm still, 'cause I know I'm paying a penny in the school education, okay? It's like, and I didn't mean to interrupt, but it's like, you know, that, I guess it's to the counties now, about the Sunday brunch law, is that to the counties? Is that going to the counties for them to vote on?
Correct.
Okay. Well, I was telling Greg this morning, you know, like, if some of that money went to local, like you go buy your cocktail or something and you gotta pay an upfront fee, $5, and that's designated from our skin with 1 o'clock to Fayette County for some, you know, good project that we'd all agree on, do it. Okay, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying it depends. If my tax money's going for something I don't support, we all know that, but I think most people support, we need education, for example, like that.
I think to Joe's point, you know, I understand perfectly what he's saying. I think a lot of people though in our state don't trust the government when it comes to that, saying we're gonna use this tax money for this, because I think we all know, I remember when the lottery started, and they talked about going to senior citizens and education, that's where the lottery money was gonna go. And then, you know, I don't know where it goes, but, you know, obviously there's problems with getting money for education. And it seems like we still have lots of other needs. It seems like the jackpots are huge anymore, so, you know, so I don't know that people trust the government enough to say, you know, we're okay with this tax as long as it goes to this, because I don't think they believe that it will necessarily always go to that. But I do understand what you're saying.
But locally, maybe.
Yeah, locally, no.
You gonna address the food tax?
Yes, now remember, I'm a doctor. If we're talking about sin taxes, the doctor's lecturing you now. How about putting it on Cheetos and Mountain Dew and the stuff like that? And taking those off the food stamp. I know that's a federal thing that we'd have to work for it. But taking all those unhealthy straight sugar shots and straight fat shots, all the good stuff, yes. And tax on that, because I think you should be able to eat all the fat sugar you want to, but you should pay more for it. So, just a straight, we're only gonna tax the unhealthy foods that are in the middle of the grocery store. If you just tour around the outside and do all the healthy foods, no taxes.
Good,
In
yes.
defense of that, of the food tax, one reason I suggested the food tax, I can remember back, I think it was 1988, I had a grandson who was in the Raleigh General Hospital, and my daughter called me and she said, "Dad, could you loan me or give me $400? Benjamin, my son, they won't let him in the hospital unless I give them $400. She had the PEIA card, which was, I considered it worthless. But Gaston Caperton came along and got elected governor, and if you remember, the PEIA was in almost like the state of West Virginia is now in balance on the budget. I mean, it was going down, your card, the school teacher's card, if you had PEI, a state worker, it was just about worthless. But Gaston Caperton put on that food tax, and this is in conjunction with what Joel says, that designated, but he put that food tax on, and he brought PEIA out of it, and all at once that card was one of the best healthcare cards in the state of West Virginia, and even surrounding states, and has been up until very recently. It may be in a little jeopardy now, and could stay in jeopardy, but that food tax did what a fair tax, I think, could do if it's put in one. That's why I mentioned that. That was my thought when I said penny or 2 pennies or 3 pennies or what. That's just one way to do it. But that food tax did work one time, and it worked for it. And you're a school teacher, and you're a school teacher, and my sister at that time was a school teacher, and my daughter, my grandson, he was in that situation in the hospital. That card was worthless. Just thought I'd throw that in.
I want to bring up one more subject, Dr. Staggers had mentioned, and I want to bring up anyway, and we're talking about infrastructure. There's, the question of the quality of our infrastructure or the maintenance of our infrastructure. And you represent a district that has one of the most iconic pieces of infrastructure in the state of West Virginia, the New River Gorge Bridge. And so, again, whoever wants to start off, is our infrastructure crumbling? And if so, how do we fix it? How do we afford to fix it?
I think if you look at that, just what you mentioned with the bridge, the cost of that compared to what that has brought into that area financially, with the bridge day and all the other things and how it's opened up the county. I think that goes to show that if you've invested in the infrastructure, it's going to pay you back. And, one of the problems we have in the education system, we're expected by the powers that be to provide a 21st century education, teach kids how to use, how to research on the internet and those sorts of things. And we don't have, we don't have internet in the schools at work. We have computers that are 8, 9 years old and things like that. So you can't really advance if you don't have that infrastructure in place. And I think, if you focus on infrastructure and put the investment in that, that's going to pay back. And I think the bridge is a classic example of that. But we do need to upgrade, especially with the internet and cell phone service. And I think that sort of thing helps attract business as well. I mean, if you own a company, are you going to put your business somewhere where there's no internet service or poor internet service or poor cell phone service? I mean, that's, business is done on the internet today, and that has to be upgraded. I think it pays itself out.
I totally agree with Coach Chris and how he said. We invest in the infrastructure, the roads, the bridges, the schools, the internet. In the long term, it's going to pay us back. Are we going to get our infrastructure fixed in the short term? Probably not. We're going to have to look long term on it. Yeah, when I drive down the road, potholes and I run in, and that makes the fire out of me too, just like everybody else. And I think what Dr. Starcher said about, or Dr. Staggis, pardon me, said about being creative, about bringing money in to pay for these things. I think we're going to have to look at a creative way to do that. It's not just going to take just the three of us that are from Fayette County, but it's going to take the state of West Virginia. It's going to take us as a whole, this House and the Senate. It's going to take all of us to put our heads together and come to consensus and create a plan.
In order to make money, you got to spend money, it's an old saying. But this little town of Fargo, North Carolina, I was reading an article. They had a little Microsoft company that Microsoft bought out. It was a company in Europe. Those folks up there put together a package, and they enticed Microsoft to establish that. It's almost like Tasmania, West Virginia, as far north as you can go without heading south again. And this little Fargo, North Dakota. And they worked at it, and they did it together. And they put together a package that was enticing to that company, Microsoft. And they're hiring thousands of people now. If they can do that in Fargo, North Dakota, they can do that in West Virginia. We can do the same thing. But you have to have something to give before you can get in a lot of instances. And this is one of those instances where you have to get tax breaks. You have to be ready, you have to get your package together, and you have to present it in a way. West Virginia has more than South Dakota has. I think, look at our rivers, look at our gorge, look at our skiing, look at our hunting, look at everything anybody could want from another state to move their industry here for their employees. I mean, it's none better than West Virginia. When you say West Virginia is great, it is great, and it's wild, and it's wonderful. And this is what we should work on. One of those things. If South Dakota and North Dakota can do it, West Virginia can do it. And they did it, and they're doing it, and it's creating jobs. And they'll balance their budget next year in that state because of what the incentives that they've done and the progressiveness that they've taken to draw industry into their state.
Anyone else on infrastructure? Excuse me. Anyone else on infrastructure?
Do I get to talk again?
Sure.
Okay, on infrastructure, infrastructure is not just the roads. Like I said, we do have to have people decide, but we have, if we're going to do anything in the state, we have to be able to get out of the state and get in the state. But don't forget air and rail and all the other ways. One of the people here would like to be able to get from Charleston to Oak Hill. That's not possible without a car on the road. But the big fight has always been, how about broadband? Now, in Fayette County, there's actually people in Fayette County that don't have running water. So we're talking about, let's start, with the basics, but everyone should have running water. But we're now talking about everyone really does have to have high-speed internet. We've defeated several things in the legislature for middle mile. There was a redundancy middle mile that was going to run out of Tennessee up through southern West Virginia that you all would never have shut down. In other words, your computers would never go down because it was redundant. And then the governor at that time wanted to run it out of Pittsburgh, and then we ended up not doing either one. So the infrastructure and broadband and transportation are all intertwined now. We're citizens of the state, we're citizens of this country, and we're citizens of the world. And if we can't get that connection, we might as well just give up.
It's on infrastructure, everybody should speak.
I just think West Virginia should go after some of those high-tech companies. Technology companies is a thing of tomorrow, it's growing. You can entice some of those companies to come to West Virginia under the right conditions. We need to expand broadband. We have everything a small company would want. We have the roads now, we have the recreation. Maybe Fayette County doesn't have the schools, but the other 54 does. Again, we've got everything that a company would want for their employees to move to West Virginia. We maybe are just lacking on exploiting that in some way, I don't know. That's included in the agreement. It's here if we promote it more.
Well, that concludes our hour, and we really appreciate you all taking the time to be here. So, again, this will be, it was live streamed, and you'll be able to watch it on our website, WV